Have you ever felt like you're walking through a world that seems so effortless for others, yet for you, the most ordinary things feel complicated, heavy, and strangely confusing, almost as if you were born with a completely different instruction manual for life, and while others seem to glide with ease through situations you find draining, you're left wondering if you're the problem, if you're missing something obvious, or if you're simply not cut out for the world you're living in. And as an INFJ, this is one of the deepest hidden truths about your existence, because what feels normal to the majority often feels unnatural, uncomfortable, or even impossible for you, not because you're incapable, not because you're broken, but because your mind and soul are designed to see, feel, and process the world at a level that most people will never truly understand. In this video, I'm going to walk you through 10 normal things INFJs always get wrong but others don't. You're going to feel something click deep inside you, because I won't just describe the struggles, I'll take you into the psychology behind why you as an INFJ experience life differently, the emotional cost of constantly stumbling in areas that others take for granted, and the hidden identity-driven solutions that allow you not only to survive these challenges, but to transform them into markers of your rare and extraordinary design. So, if you've ever felt like you're quietly failing at things that seem so simple for others, let this video remind you. You're not failing, you're not broken, you're simply INFJ, and that changes everything. 1. Small talk and casual conversation. For most people, small talk is easy. It's quick, it's light, it's surface-level chatter about the weather, the traffic, or last night's TV show. And people use it like oil in the social engine, smoothing interactions and making connections without much thought or effort. But for INFJs, small talk feels like trying to breathe underwater, unnatural, draining, and oddly suffocating, because while others skim the surface, you can't help but dive into the depths. Picture yourself at a work lunch or a family gathering, where people are tossing back jokes, swapping quick remarks, and seemingly enjoying the moment without a second thought, while you're standing there smiling politely, but inside your head 1,000 questions are swirling, because you're not just hearing words, you're analyzing tone, body language, hidden emotions, and the subtext beneath every sentence, and instead of relaxing, you're exhausting yourself trying to keep up with both the surface conversation and the emotional undercurrents that no one else even notices. This is why small talk feels like starvation to you, because while others are satisfied with surface-level exchanges, you are wired to crave meaning, depth, and authenticity, and when you don't get it, you either withdraw into silence, feeling out of place, or you accidentally go too deep, too fast, asking questions about life purpose, struggles, or inner beliefs that catch people off guard, leaving them uncomfortable and you misunderstood. Most people get small talk right without thinking about it, but INFJs often get it wrong, because they either avoid it altogether or treat it as fake, and the world interprets this as aloofness, disinterest, or even arrogance, when in reality, you're just hungry for connection that feels real. INFJ, stop seeing small talk as a betrayal of your need for depth, and instead treat it as a bridge, a gentle doorway into the deeper conversations you long for, because once you realize that surface-level chatter is not the destination but the warm-up, you can use it strategically, allowing others to feel comfortable before guiding them slowly into the meaningful exchanges that make you feel alive. 2. Setting boundaries clearly. For many people, saying no is simple. They don't overthink it, they don't feel guilty, they just decline politely and move on. But for INFJs, setting boundaries is one of the hardest lessons to learn, because while your logical mind knows you need them, your heart aches at the thought of disappointing someone, hurting them, or being seen as selfish. You've been in this situation countless times. Someone asks you for help, a favor, or just your time, and even though you're already exhausted, drained, or overwhelmed, you feel the pull of their emotions so intensely that the word no gets stuck in your throat, and before you even realize it, you've agreed, once again sacrificing your own needs for the sake of keeping peace, even though deep down you're drowning in resentment. This is where INFJs often get it wrong. You believe that saying no is rejection, when in reality, it's self-protection, and because your empathy makes you feel responsible for other people's feelings, you forget that your own energy, health, and boundaries matter just as much as theirs. The psychological root of this struggle comes from your identity as a healer and a protector. You see the pain in others and instinctively want to ease it, but without strong boundaries, you end up absorbing more than you can carry, leading to burnout, frustration, and even a quiet sense of betrayal when others don't seem to notice the sacrifices you've made. INFJ, reframe boundaries as acts of love, not walls that shut people out, but guidelines that keep relationships healthy and balanced, because when you learn to say no with clarity and kindness, you're not abandoning people, you're teaching them how to respect you, and in turn, creating the space to give from a place of authenticity instead of exhaustion. 3. Asking for help. For most people, asking for help is natural. If they don't know how to do something, they ask. If they're struggling, they reach out. But for INFJs, asking for help feels like standing naked in front of the world, vulnerable, exposed, and unbearably uncomfortable. Since childhood, you've carried the silent belief that you must handle everything on your own, partly because you don't trust others to truly understand your inner world, and partly because you fear being a burden. So instead of asking for support, you struggle in silence, convincing yourself that self-reliance is safer than risking rejection, misunderstanding, or disappointment. This often leads you to get it wrong in practical ways. Maybe you take on too much at work instead of delegating. Maybe you suffer through emotional turmoil without confiding in anyone. Or maybe you refuse to lean on friends even when they would gladly help. And while others move forward easily by leaning on their support systems, you're quietly carrying the weight of the world on your own shoulders. The root of this INFJ struggle lies in your identity-driven independence, because you're so used to being the listener, the counselor, the one others lean on. It feels unnatural to reverse roles, and when you do, you often find yourself explaining too much, apologizing, or even feeling guilty afterward, as though you've taken something you weren't entitled to. INFJ, begin to see asking for help not as weakness, but as a form of intimacy and trust. By allowing others to support you, you're not only lightening your own burden, you're deepening the relationship, giving others the gift of being needed, and showing yourself that vulnerability doesn't destroy you, it connects you. 4. Taking compliments at face value. For most people, a compliment is a gift they accept with ease. Someone says, "You look great today," or "That was amazing work," and they smile, say thank you, and move on. But for INFJs, compliments often create discomfort, suspicion, or even confusion, because instead of simply accepting them, your mind begins dissecting the intention behind the words. When someone praises you, you might immediately wonder, do they really mean it? Are they just being polite? Do they want something from me? Or worse, do they have the wrong perception of me and will be disappointed when they realize who I really am? This constant analysis leads you to deflect compliments, downplay your achievements, or even reject the positive feedback outright, leaving others baffled, because while they thought they were being kind, your response makes it seem like you don't believe them or that you're ungrateful. The reason INFJs get this wrong is that you struggle with an internal conflict. Your desire for authenticity clashes with your fear of being misunderstood, so when praise comes, you don't know how to trust it, because you know how complex you are inside, and you worry that no one sees the whole picture. INFJ, practice accepting compliments as mirrors, not traps. When someone reflects something positive back to you, don't overthink their intention. Simply allow their words to remind you that others see value in you, and instead of rejecting it, respond with a simple, graceful thank you, because by doing so, you honor both their kindness and your worth. 5. Relaxing without guilt. For many people, relaxation is natural. They finish their work, they put their feet up, they watch a show, or they take a nap, and they do so without questioning whether they deserve it. But for INFJs, the very idea of relaxing often comes tangled with guilt, self-criticism, and a nagging sense that you should be doing something more useful, more productive, or more meaningful with your time. You know this feeling. You sit down with a book, or you try to enjoy a quiet moment, and instead of peace, your mind starts whispering, "Have I done enough today? Am I wasting time?" What if someone needs me right now? Shouldn't I be working on that project, calling that person back, or preparing for tomorrow? And suddenly what should have been rest becomes yet another form of stress. INFJs often get this wrong because of the way your identity is tied to responsibility. You carry an invisible weight on your shoulders, a constant pressure to serve, to create, to contribute, and when you stop moving, you feel like you're betraying some unspoken duty, even though rest is what your mind and body are crying out for. The psychology behind this runs deep. INFJs are highly conscientious, and your empathy makes you hyper-aware of other people's needs, so much so that you equate stillness with selfishness, and while others recharge freely, you burn yourself out chasing impossible standards of selflessness. INFJ, reframe relaxation as service to your higher self. Remind yourself that rest is not wasted time, but fuel that makes you capable of continuing your mission, because when you finally allow yourself to relax without guilt, you become sharper, stronger, and more present for the people and causes that matter most to you. 6. Saying no without explaining. For most people, saying no is simple. They decline, move on, and don't feel compelled to justify themselves. But for INFJs, the word no almost never comes alone, because the moment you say it, you feel the urge to explain, to soften the blow, to provide detailed reasons that prove you're not being rude, selfish, or cold. Imagine someone invites you to an event you don't want to attend. Most people would just say, "Sorry, I can't make it," but as an INFJ, you might feel a rising panic at the thought of being misunderstood, so you overcompensate, giving long, detailed explanations, apologizing excessively, and sometimes even inventing excuses just to make your no acceptable. This constant need to justify drains you and leaves you feeling small, because while you've technically said no, you've wrapped it in so much guilt and self-doubt that the boundary no longer feels like yours. The reason INFJs get this wrong lies in your empathy-driven fear of rejection. You anticipate how your refusal will land, and because you feel the emotional weight of disappointing someone, you scramble to minimize it, even at the cost of your own dignity and energy. INFJ, train yourself to let no stand on its own. Remember that your boundaries are valid without explanation, and that people who truly value you won't demand endless reasons. So the next time you feel the urge to justify, take a breath, say your no kindly but firmly, and trust that the strength of your self-respect will speak louder than any explanation ever could. 7. Accepting things as they are without overanalyzing. Most people can accept situations at face value. A friend cancels plans, a coworker sends a short email, a stranger makes an offhand remark, and they move on without giving it much thought. But for INFJs, every detail is an invitation to analyze, decode, and uncover hidden meaning, often leaving you stressed, confused, and spiraling long after the moment has passed. Take something as simple as a short text reply. Where most people shrug and assume the sender was busy, you might find yourself dissecting tone, punctuation, timing, and underlying emotion, wondering if you upset them, if they're pulling away, or if you somehow did something wrong. And by the time you've exhausted yourself with analysis, the reality is almost always far simpler than you imagined. INFJs get this wrong not because you're paranoid, but because your intuition and sensitivity make you constantly aware of hidden layers. You know there's always more beneath the surface, and you're usually right, but this gift can turn against you when you apply it to every small detail, seeing complexity where there may be none. INFJ, learn to ask yourself, what is the simplest explanation here? And give yourself permission to stop digging when the stakes are low, because while your depth is one of your greatest strengths, not every moment in life requires excavation, and when you allow yourself to accept things as they are, you free your energy for the situations that truly deserve your insight. 8. Asking for what they truly want. Most people have no problem asking for what they want. Whether it's a raise, a favor, or even just their preferred dinner choice, they speak up, and the world adjusts. But INFJs often get this wrong, not because you don't know what you want, but because voicing it feels risky, vulnerable, and selfish. You've been conditioned to consider everyone else's needs first, and by the time you finally think about your own, you either convince yourself it's too much to ask, or you stay silent, hoping others will notice and offer it without you having to request it. But when that doesn't happen, you feel disappointed, invisible, or even unloved, even though you never gave others a chance to meet your need. This self-silencing often leaves you with unmet desires, whether it's emotional support, recognition, or simply time for yourself. And while others move through life more directly, getting what they ask for, you stay in the shadows, quietly hoping your worth will be seen without you having to say a word. The root of this lies in your deep fear of rejection. Asking feels dangerous because it opens the door to disappointment, and as an INFJ, rejection cuts deeply, so you'd rather deny yourself than risk exposing your heart. INFJ, reframe asking as empowerment rather than selfishness. When you state your needs clearly, you're not demanding, you're honoring your humanity, and you're giving others the gift of clarity, because people can't meet needs they don't know exist, and when you finally speak up, you may be surprised at how often the world responds with kindness and respect. 9. Taking criticism lightly. For many people, criticism is just information. They hear it, they adjust if necessary, and they move on. But for INFJs, criticism often cuts like a blade, sinking deep into your identity and leaving you wounded long after the words have been spoken. Even small comments, "You could have done that differently," or "This wasn't your best work," can replay in your mind for days, because you don't just hear criticism, you feel it, internalize it, and begin questioning your worth, your competence, and even your identity. INFJs get this wrong because you're wired for perfectionism and meaning. You put so much of yourself into what you create that any criticism feels personal, almost like a rejection of your very being, and while others can shrug off feedback, you spiral into self-doubt, analyzing every angle until your confidence is shaken. INFJ, practice seeing criticism as data, not judgment. Remind yourself that feedback is about behavior or outcomes, not your worth as a person, and when you separate who you are from what you do, you'll be able to grow without collapsing under the weight of every negative remark. 10. Letting go of relationships that no longer serve them. For most people, letting go of relationships is painful but manageable. They recognize when something isn't working, they say goodbye, and they move forward. But for INFJs, walking away feels almost impossible, because you don't just see the person as they are now, you see their potential, their wounds, their hidden self, and the future version of them they could become. You hold on long after the relationship has become toxic, draining, or one-sided, because you can't help but hope, believe, and fight for the best in people, even when they're not showing up in reality, and while others call it naivety, it's actually your loyalty and vision working against you. This is where INFJs often get it wrong. You confuse compassion with obligation, and you stay far longer than you should, sacrificing your own well-being in the hope that your presence will be the catalyst for their transformation, when in truth, it's not your responsibility to save anyone who isn't willing to save themselves. INFJ, reframe letting go as an act of love, not abandonment, but recognition that clinging to what drains you keeps both of you from growing, because when you release someone, you free yourself for relationships that nourish you, and you give them the space to face their own journey without leaning on your energy as a crutch. So here's the truth. Dear INFJ, the 10 normal things you always get it wrong but others don't are not evidence of failure, weakness, or inadequacy. They are signs of your rare wiring, your deep empathy, and your unrelenting search for meaning. And while others may never understand why you struggle with what feels so simple to them, you now know that every one of these struggles has a hidden strength, waiting to be reframed, embraced, and transformed into a gift. You're not here to be normal. You're here to live deeply, to see what others miss, to feel what others ignore, and to carry wisdom into a world that desperately needs it. And yes, this path will sometimes make you stumble where others stride easily, but it will also give you insights, compassion, and resilience that few will ever know. So the next time you find yourself getting it wrong, remember, wrong by the world's standards doesn't mean wrong for you, because you are an INFJ, and that means you are not here to fit in. You are here to transform.